Okay. Studio mode. Hey, we got everything. Oh, shit. Fuck bananas. Oh, crap. Bear with me for 1 minute. I just realized I forgot to run something or cancel something. Yeah, got dropped frames. No, I don't care about you. I don't care about you. My apologies. I just need to. That's going to be fun too. Fuck. So I back up all of my stuff that I do, videos. Oh, no wonder. Okay, so I back up videos, sound bites, all the stuff that I do here, just in case YouTube disappears for some reason, which will probably never happen. But please work. Nope. Fuck. 0, right? There we go. Okay, that should help. Only 51 drop frames. I apologize. Hopefully, nobody's here. Oh, I do got 2 people here. Okay, sorry for the delay. I just had to take care of a computer thing in the background. Got my video, got my thing going. Okay. ¿Qué pasó, familia? Soy ese vato gallo. And one more time, because no. Right? No. Gotta turn you on. 2. No. There we go. Okay. One more time. We should be ready to go now. ¿Qué pasó, familia? Soy ese vato gallo, and welcome to another episode of Sucias Are My Favorite. The last episode, I mentioned MeToo when it's convenient. That's the title of this episode. And I wanted to spend a little bit of time with this because I've been on both sides of this issue. Not personally, but I've been on both sides in terms of what I've seen. So before I jump in, I got to give a little background. But for the viewers right now that are on the live stream, if you have any questions or comments, I forgot to do it in the description, but if you want to type in the chat window, just type in my name at Cochino Chingon. I don't know if you need I don't know if you have to put the space or not, but in either case, if you put that in and then write out just a little snippet of like, hey, you mentioned this, and then ask your question, that way when I get to the questions at the end of the live stream, I'll know what you're talking about versus, oh, that happened to me too. Well, what happened to you? Because I don't know what happened, right? Because I'll be talking about a lot of things. And also, there is a delay between what I'm saying right now and what shows up on YouTube. It has a like 17-second delay. So by the time you hear this, it's been 17 seconds since I've said it. And then by the time you type something out, it'll be like another minute. So it'll be kind of a mess, so to speak, right? So with all that said, let's dive in. So I got to give a little background. Let me get this closer. There we go. See, in the last episode, I talked about how 50 Shades of Grey was the worst thing that happened to the kink community. While it did help the kink community become more mainstream, or it rather let people know that there's a lot more to just spanking and pulling hair, it gave rise to fake doms, but not immediately. But by doing so, it also highlighted something that I think that I'm in the minority when I heard about this. And I think a lot of people in the kink community are aware of it, but they didn't, what's the word? I guess we weren't vocal enough to get it canceled because this was before me too. So, short version, Christian rapes a female. She was a virgin, but the way it was described is it's a sensual act, and all he really did was ignore her safe word, which is honestly no different than someone saying stop during sex. Like if someone says stop, no, or don't, that should be the end of it. Now, I say I'm in the minority because, like I say, the kink community, or a majority of the kink community, sees it this way. They saw that it was a rape. But compared to the millions of people that read the book, saw the movie, and all the other books and movies that followed afterwards. And they also thought that it was hot as hell. Well, compared to those millions, we're like a speck of dust. Hang on a second. I need to take a brownie. I hurt my back yesterday, or sorry, a couple of days ago. Mm, rearranging the garage. Basically, a shelf of totes fell on me. So my back is tweaked. You might see that I'm lower because I'm sitting in a chair that allows me to basically lean all my weight forward and off of my hips. I got this when I first broke my hip back in 2016. That was one where I separated my hip from my spine. You do not want to find out that your hip is 3 bones. It's not the hard way. Okay, sorry. So, as far as the kink community is concerned, in comparison to the general public, we're just a speck of dust. Now, while we're talking about fake DOMs, or while I was talking about fake DOMs and 50 Shades of Grey, I realized that the general public, mainstream, quote unquote, quote unquote, by their silence and not boycotting the books and movies, they loudly said, or at least to me, it seemed like they loudly said, that rape is okay if you make it hot. Which is what got me thinking, what if Weinstein was attractive, right? What if it was Brad Pitt or Tom Hardy that did what Weinstein did? Now, I'm sure your knee-jerk reaction is going to be, well, no, he needs to go to jail and we want to see his head rolls. But would you, though? Would you? Now, I used to be a referee in roller derby. Now I'm an announcer. At least pre-COVID I was. How I got into roller derby isn't relevant, but being a part of this subculture, I've seen how a lot of females, both that are usually mainstream and are just kind of in this small subculture. So in the small subculture of roller derby, there is a huge spectrum of people that are a part of it. From mainstream vanillas, I know some doctors and lawyers that are into roller derby or play roller derby. And I know some people that are tattoo artists, waiters, waitresses, that kind of thing. So it's a huge spectrum of people that normally wouldn't come together besides roller derby. So, situation that happened to me, I had several, but it's kind of disheartening that I've experienced the most sexual assaults to myself in roller derby than the rest of my life, or the other part of my sex life or my adult life that I've been having sex. Excuse me. It is cold in here, and I just want to make sure my nose isn't running on screen or on camera. So, one thing that happened is a home team skater. We were at an away game. So, one more thing. If you hear me repeat myself, it's not that I'm like losing my mind. It's that I just want a clean cut for when I edit this later for the podcast and for video snippets that I do later. So, anyways. So this home team skater, basically a skater that was with the team that I went with to an away game, she grabbed my crotch at an after party while she was drunk in front of my wife. Although at the time, she was just my girlfriend. Not that it bothered her either way. We were kinky and we like to play with others from time to time, though we normally didn't shit where we eat. So we didn't play with other skaters that were current skaters. We'd play with skaters that had retired or quit or moved away, couple of months to years prior, right? Anyways, the next day on the way home, we were taking a trip, or it was a road trip, right? The next day I told her, hey, pulled her aside, you know what you did, right? And her response was, or I told her what happened, and she admitted that, yeah, I know. I always remember what I do when I'm drunk. I never get that drunk. So fast forward about a year later, MeToo exploded, and she was on the bandwagon cheering on how sexual predators deserve to be castrated, thrown in jail, and all this other crazy stuff that a lot of people justifiably believed and felt at the same time. I understand how traumatic a rape can be for a person and how your initial gut reaction would be to hurt that person as much as or worse than they hurt you. So, and it was on a social media public forum that she made this comment. So I replied to her comment, so when are you going to turn yourself in for grabbing me in public? Before or after you get your clit removed? And less than an hour later, or within that hour, a lot of her friends were roasting her and just jumping in and just piling up on her that that she deserves the same treatment as well. Um, and then she messaged me or DM'd me that basically begging me to delete my reply. And I replied, "Hi, skater name. Nice to talk to you too. Though my English must not be as good as yours because I didn't see a single apology in that message you just sent, or any begging to try to get me to excuse you for grabbing me." To which, of course, she replied, or to which, of course, her reply was an apology and just kept going on and on. "Please, please, please, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And my reply to her then was essentially, "See, sometimes guys get it worse just because of something that may or may not have happened or might have been blown out of proportion." Second thing that happened to me, the night before my late wife's celebration of life, which she did not want. She just wanted a goodbye party, and we had that the night before of her celebration of life. About a few hours after the party was over, I woke up to another skater on top of me telling me, "Shh, it's okay. It's grief sex. It's good for you." Kicked her off of me, and some things happened after that that I'm not going to get into. So yeah, I'll just leave that there. If you want to know about it, if you're friends with me, or you can message me and I'll talk about it offhand, but I don't want to put this on a public forum, or at least that part. Another thing that happened is a skater at another after party. This is while I was a referee. Came up to me and the other refs while we were discussing the game and what was going on and whatnot. She essentially asked me, "Hey, to come out of the parking lot and join her for a little slap and tickle." My response was to politely decline because it was early in my referee career and I did not want to be known as the ref that, was that ref that was just there to hook up with skaters, which was not the point. So I declined, and her response was to immediately try to accuse me of taking advantage of her. And at the same time, also saying that I probably wasn't any good in bed, anyways. Once the crowd had died down, the other refs basically told the bar patrons that were there that were going to try to defend her that she propositioned me and she got angry that I turned her down. So that calmed down the patrons. But her teammates knew how she was, especially after she's had a few, and just kind of like, okay, whatever. She usually does that. And that bothered me in that if a male had done that, it wouldn't be okay, and everybody would be, even before MeToo, it would not be cool for a guy to berate a female for turning him down for sex, right? Of course, it does happen, and I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying that, if the tables were turned, what would have happened, right? Now, I'm not completely blameless. There was a time before MeToo when I saw a skater that I hadn't seen in a while, and normally this was from me traveling so often. I would go from Houston, which was my base, to San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, surrounding towns and cities in each of those. Also, all the way as far as Lake Charles, Lafayette, Baton Rouge, and Gulfport, Mississippi, and surrounding smaller towns and areas there as well. So there would be times where I wouldn't see a skater for 3 months to a year, depending on whether they played, whether I got asked to a referee or not. And so I do is give them a hug, and because of my size, I'm 6 feet, I'd give them a hug, lift them up, twirl them around, and set them down again. And so that was kind of a thing that everybody looked forward to getting a hug from me because of that, or just making them feel like a little kid or a little girl, whatever. But in the small circle that I was in, a lot of people were excited to get a gallo hug, right? So that had happened a few times, and I'd also annoyingly or profusely say, "Oh, how much I missed them," being very childish with the whole situation, right? And it wasn't until one time one of the skaters' husbands had asked me not to do that again. And a few weeks later, I'd heard another skater complain that she could feel me when I let her down. It wasn't intentional, and I didn't realize that while I was flaccid that I was noticeable, especially if I'm picking them up from the waist and having them chest level. I don't know. Maybe they felt me with their legs or knees or something. Who knows? But so along these lines of the things that have happened to me and things that I've inadvertently done, there was a well-known skater in the roller derby community. He actually tried to get roller derby started back in the 90s, and he's been doing roller skating on quad skates for decades, like since the 80s, long before roller derby made its comeback in 2003. So when roller derby started kicking off and taking itself seriously, there was training events where they would hire better or well-known skaters to come and train, their newbie skaters, how to do specific tasks, how to do better blocking, how to have better control of yourself while on skates, right? So I don't remember when this happened, but you can Google roller derby Australia and MeToo, and you should be able to get an article, or at least an article referring to the original article. That might be a little too much to digest. So the article was written around right after MeToo had came out by an Australian skater of what had happened. Since then, it's kind of hard to find it now. I don't know if I guess the website that originally hosted it is down, but there are several articles that refer to it and mention the gist of what had happened in her post. And her post basically said that she was a new skater back in the day, so before Me Too, I'm guessing somewhere around 2005. Her team in Australia was able to afford and hire this male skater to come and be their trainer. Now, he's a very physically fit and attractive male. Personally, we don't get along, or I don't like him as much. Maybe we just butt heads because we chase women. I don't know, but there's just a little bit of animosity between the two of us, but I respect him as a skater and as a person and all the things that he can do in terms of the sport. So at the end of the training, there was kind of like a get-together party for all the skaters and referees, and the male skater, or the male trainer, got into a hot tub with this skater that made the post, along with some other teammates and team members. And unbeknownst to everyone there, the skater, her boyfriend, was a referee who was sitting next to her. And a lot of teams or a lot of roller derby teams used to have a rule that officials and skaters cannot date unless they were married or dating before the official joined. They wanted to curb fraternization and basically, I guess, skewing stats in the favor of that one skater, which kind of on the surface seems ridiculous to me, but I get it. Some teams just didn't want to run the risk of seeming unprofessional, right? In any case, so this couple had kept their relationship a secret per their team rules. So while in the hot tub, the trainer was being flirtatious with the skater, and at one point, according to her, puts his hand on her thigh. Now, I'm not saying, according to her, saying that she's lying, just there's a variation in the stories from either side, from here. So, put his hand on her thigh, and she brushed it away. And at this point, the skater is sitting between her boyfriend and the trainer, right? And the trainer is being flirtatious. Of course, he doesn't know that she has a boyfriend, and no one had said anything at that point. No one knew that there was a relationship between her and her boyfriend. So a few more minutes go by, and he puts his hand on her thigh again. She brushes it away. Again, another period of time goes by, and he puts his hand on her thigh. On the third time, she brushes it away, and he gets the picture, and he leaves her alone. So that was the end of that situation. And then she goes on to say why she felt the need that she needed to share the story now. And she brushed it away because in her mind, she thought, who's going to believe me anyways? He's a big-time skater, and maybe I'm just reading more into it, blah, blah, blah. So she was kind of second-guessing herself. But in the end, she basically said, hey, if it happened to me, it probably happened to someone else. And that was her rationale for putting out her story. Shortly after that, there was some more accusations of the trainer allegedly having grabbed another skater's breasts. There was a few of those, and there was also a few accusations of unsolicited pictures, which I would guess means dick pics, but I don't know. Now, his version of the story is basically the same. He went down to train them, whatnot, and he admits that he can, she's pretty sure that he did flirt with her and possibly put his hand on her knee. But after the first or second time, he would have gotten the picture because he says that he understands nonverbal cues and was able to get it. So, and again, according to her, there was nothing else other than his hand on her knee or thigh. Like she says thigh, he says knee, or just above the knee. Yeah, so she felt the need that she needed to expose this predator. Now, in the backlash of that, because MeToo was gaining steam, this skater, the trainer who was a skater, he was basically removed from his team. He wasn't allowed to play in the World Cup or the Men's World Cup. So he was removed from his team. And at the World Cup, also all of his training events were canceled. But the repercussions also went further towards his teammates, not just because he was missing in the game, but his teammates wrote his jersey number onto their calf while one of the last games of the tournament. And actually, no. If I recall correctly, the number was on through at least the last day of the tournament. And no one noticed that day. It wasn't until, again, MeToo was gaining steam and people were seeing pictures and zooming in and realizing, oh, hey, they used his number or they wrote his number down. And a couple of them had on their personal social media posts that, here with us in spirit, right? And so the repercussions for the teammates were that they were vilified, essentially saying that the community is accusing these guys and a female. She was the bench coach, and she had the number on her calf as well, and they were essentially sanctioned. There was threats of removing the championship from the team because of basically stripping the championship and giving it to second place, right? Now, I don't know if anyone else has been in a similar situation where you've been hit on or you hit on someone else, flirt with, pursue, whatever. But I would think that if you have the confidence to approach a female, you should hopefully have an idea of nonverbal cues to know when someone's interested or not, whether to keep going or to engage or to just back off, right? And I admit, sometimes I misread a situation and realize it after she either brushes me away or says no a few times. Now, when I say she says no a few times, like, no, I'm not interested, there is a kind of distinction that more often than not I have, learned. 9 times out of 10, if a female tells me no, I can tell if it's like, no, not right now, try again later, or no, leave me alone. It's not just the words, it's how she says it. It's also how she's facing me, turns toward me, whatever. There's a lot of factors that go into me deciding whether to pursue, like, hey, let me buy you a drink or keep talking to the female or whatnot. But for the most part, I understand no means no. There's a lot of guys that I would imagine don't know this. So there's a lot of things to try to unpack. Excuse me. So going back to this trainer skater situation, in reading both articles, or reading her article and reading his apology, all I see is that he was flirting with her and touched her, but at no point she said no, stop, no, or don't. Like brushing the hand away, I would, depending on the situation, I could read it as, oh, hey, my friends are here. I don't want them to think that I'm getting special treatment, or, it's one of those things that you got to read in the moment. So depending how she brushed his hands away, if it was a gentle, smooth, soft, like, hand on her thigh, and she pushes his hand away, or not pushes, but just kind of slowly brushes it away, that would tell me, hey, not right here, not right now. But if she like slaps it away quickly, then that's like, ew, get away. That I would understand as well. But I get that there's nuances in everything, in every situation, that there can be miscommunication, a misreading, or just a simple misunderstanding. And I completely understand the issue that females have when being pursued by males, because if they stand up for themselves, then they're considered a bitch, or they'll be called a bitch and all kinds of words. by the mail to them because they're telling them no, and how dare she tell him no, right? On the flip side of that, I also get that if they're not firm in their no or brushing him off, then the mail can take it as an invite to keep on, or as a kind of a cue to, like, hey, just kind of go slow with this, right? So I can understand where there's that misreading there as well. So I know for a fact that if a female says that she has a boyfriend, some guys will call them out and basically say that, well, you're lying, because if you really had a boyfriend, if you really had a boyfriend, he'd be here with you. Or if you had one, where is he? Right? That kind of stupid response. And I know this because I used to, what do you call it? Would drop off my wife or drop my wife off at the door of a bar, and I'd go park if it was raining, or if there was no parking, in the immediate vicinity, I'd go park further down. So by the time I came in, we'd be able to have drinks, or the drinks would be ready for us. But I'll get to that in a second. Kind of tying in with the whole sexual harassment thing, I have been accused of sexual harassment while I was in roller derby. Now, I don't know what I was accused of. I was just accused of sexually harassing a skater. Now, how do I not know what I was accused of? Is because there was a board member meeting that called me. All the board members and the team captains were called to a meeting where I had to show up. And at first I thought it was just like another random board meeting, and they had an emergency thing because they wanted to vote on something silly and they needed a majority, whatever. But showed up anyways, and I was told that the meeting was called because I was accused of sexual harassment. And I was like, okay, what did I do and to who? Like, oh, well, we can't tell you that because you might retaliation, that I might retaliate against the skater. Like, so you're telling me I have to give up my position and do all these other things and basically stand down because you say I was sexually harassed? Does anyone here else know what I was charged with, or what am I being accused of? And only the president of the league knew what I was being charged of, allegedly. And I know while in roller derby, I can be loud and make callous jokes, make dirty sex jokes and whatnot. But normally I am aware of who I say that to, because I only open up in that way until a skater or another official opens up to me in that manner, like basically make a dick joke, or yeah, that's what she said, like something along those lines. And then I build up, but only with that person, because I know they're going back and forth with me in that manner. So I thought, well, maybe someone overheard a joke that I had said. I was like, okay, well, is it something I said or something I did? No answer. She couldn't give me a response. And this kind of kept going on in a circle, and I eventually tried to present her with a situation. Okay, like, let's say you get pulled over and the cop says you're being arrested, you're under arrest. Would you allow yourself to be arrested if they won't tell you for what? They have to tell you what you're being arrested for. They give you a ticket. They're telling you what you're going to get a ticket for. And she just flat out refused to tell me what I was being sexually harassed for, and I could either willingly step down now, or it'll be put to a vote after I left. So I decided to step down because I was tired of the president, who was essentially being a dictator, and a lot of things came out later that has to do with the league and not with this. So in any case, after everything was said and done, I messaged a couple of the board members that I knew personally, either before they joined the team or that we were friends already. And I asked them, hey, do you know what happened? Because no one else wanted to speak up while she was talking. So if you know, I'm not asking you to break any confidence. I just want to know, was it something I said or something I did? And the ones that I reached out to all said, I don't know. She just told us it was a meeting and that's what we were there for. Two of them responded something along the lines of, well, I wished you had sexually harassed me. And so that also reminded me of this whole kind of like double standard with MeToo once it came out. In any case, now, I'm not saying that accusations are false, that the women that make any accusations are liars. That is absolutely not what I'm saying. There's a distinction. What I'm saying is that not all accusations are true, and there's a distinction. And I hope that that point is clear with what I'm trying to say, okay? Because if it's happened to me, it means it's probably happened to someone else. And what I mean is not being, well, both being assaulted, but also being falsely accused. And again, just to reiterate, not all accusations are false, but not all accusations are true. So, one second. I'm starting to lose feeling in my legs because I forgot this chair is uncomfortable. So I'm going to try standing for a while. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Crap. Can't feel my feet. This is going to be fun. Ooh, that is very weird. Oops. Yep, don't want to do that. So, some of you may not know, but I broke my hip 2016. Yeah. Okay. Ooh, now I'm way tall. This will be fun to edit later, and my legs are jello. Let me try to lock them in place, but that's still not good either. All right. Now, I fully believe that there is an issue overall with sexual harassment. Like I said, I've dropped off my wife at the door of a bar so she'd have to walk in the rain or whatever. And when I come in, she's either already got the drinks or she's a couple of people from the front of the line to put her order in. And when I'd come in, I would find out later that there was a guy talking to her and just not taking no for an answer until they realized that she really did have a boyfriend when I showed up or walked in. I've also been the guy that a random female just approaches me, whispers in my ear while giving me a hug or a kiss on the cheek and tells me to pretend to be her boyfriend because some guy just would not leave her alone, whether usually was at a bar. And I would keep an eye out for her and let her know, hey, I saw the guy, or I'd ask her, hey, what does this guy look like? She'd tell me what he's wearing, and I'd keep my eyes out, look around, and I'd see the guy either leave or I'd notice somebody kind of dart the opposite direction to the opposite side of the bar. And I'd let her know what was going on. And from there, I'd either offer to walk her out to her car or wait with her till her Uber shows up or she can hang out with us. And, you know, we're a cool bunch of friends. Make some new friends, right? So in any case, I was sharing a lot of this story, kind of bouncing ideas off of friends as to how to make this whole outline. And when I was sharing with this female friend of mine, she told me that I was lucky because I'm large and intimidating. She's dated guys, she's 5'7", and she dated a guy about her size, her height, but he was about 120, just soaking wet. He was a tiny little guy. And so when she would be at a bar, guys would harass her, talk to her, and ignore the fact that her boyfriend was right next to her because he's either just a friend or just some random dude. They didn't see him as a threat to them. And sorry, I just remembered what she had said. So these other guys would basically make fun of him and her and harass her basically that they're much more of a man than her teacup boyfriend. So that's what I was laughing at because I was recalling what she had told me, that they were calling her boyfriend a teacup boyfriend. So, but I mean, not that the situation's funny, just funny what she had said, right? But again, so I didn't realize that there was kind of a flip side to that yes, females are harassed and approached and bothered, but even if they say they have a boyfriend, or even if they do have a boyfriend and the boyfriend isn't taller or bigger than her, or more intimidating than the guys that are approaching her, then they'll still be a dick, right? And when I say I know how difficult it is for a female, I'm not saying I know what it's like to be a female. I just know from what female friends have told me. So yeah, and even if females are assertive in telling a guy that no, they don't want they don't want the guy's attention, then the guy might make her uncomfortable and just kind of follow her around or make her life miserable while she's there until she has to get security or staff involved somehow, right? So yeah, it's just kind of, I get that it's a catch-22 to be a female and out and about in the nightlife, or even just as a waitress. That's another story. That's whatever, right? In case. So back to this Gator and Trainer. Shoot, lost my train of thought. I had a note there, but it didn't expand. Just Gator Trainer, right? So I kind of got to dial in my teleprompter a little more as to like how I want to expand on things. but I'm also losing my mind and forgetting things. So I think I write something down and say, oh yeah, I'll remember to talk more about this, because a lot of my stuff is just like little bullet points. But I don't know why I was talking about the skater trainer situation again. I think we're clear on that. Right? What else? Oh yeah. So just again, like just to be clear, that when I say I know what it's like for females, I'm not saying I know, or quote unquote, I know what it's like to be a female. I just know what I've been told. Now, to the heart of the matter, Me Too when it's convenient. Attractive males can get away with murder, at least in the eyes of females, though not always in the eyes of the law. They can still get convicted, but sometimes if they're attractive, the sentences for males will be less than if they weren't. And that's just from studies I've seen and from I forgot the documentary I saw, and I meant to write that down and I didn't put it in my notes because I put it somewhere else. So sorry about that. But the whole lighter sentences thing and being forgiven by females but not the law, what I'm referring to more directly is serial killers and murderers that just happen to have groupies or end up having groupies somehow, right? From the Night Stalker to just your random narcissistic asshole and almost every attractive male in between. They can usually do as they please because who knows? I don't know why. I just guessed that because someone's more attractive, people assume that they're a better person overall. There's no, I don't have any science to back that up. It's just from what you see in the news, and especially if you saw the recent Night Stalker Netflix thing, where he had groupies. That's just crazy to me, right? But anyways, so I'll just kind of posit a theory that everyone's welcome to try to disprove either in the comments or no one's commenting. All right, in the comments, or if you want to message me later. Attractive and narcissistic males, or just basically alpha males or chads, if you will, while revolting by the sum of their parts or some individual heinous acts, I think they're often excused or allowed or ignored or overlooked because either A, so there's going to be two things here that I think is either A, the female thinks that a dominant or very attractive or desirable man to that female is like, oh, it's going to boost her ego. It's like, wow, out of all these other females, he chose me. Or her response or her thought process, well, at least he's not creepy about it. Even though the act is creepy because he's attractive, he doesn't seem creepy. It could also be that the attractive male just simply knows how to hunt, quote unquote, for an insecure female. That one that'll be less likely to accuse him of anything. Though I would argue that it's still creepy and cringy. Now, is cringy spelled EY or just a Y at the end? That's, I wonder. Anyways, I'm just to stick to the notes. So either case, I think that creepy and cringy should be attributed to the action, not just the action based on the male's appearance. Now, maybe you've paid attention to some conversations to your friends, or I challenge you to pay attention to some friends' conversations and challenge their perspectives. And maybe you'll kind of see the world differently, or at least the way I do, which is kind of a step back in a sense, I guess. Now, the reason I say this is I've heard females, because I've been around quite a few in the roller derby community. And I'll usually hear them tell a story about some random guy that they were with. And apparently they kind of forget that I'm there. Hang on one second. Shit. I can feel my feet. But now they're cold because this garage is freezing. And I'm standing on bare concrete. Oh, there goes my light. And it's back. Hang on one second. Oh. I have a blanket to stand on. Like literally, it's a moving blanket, so my feet don't freeze. Okay. So yeah, if I've had females tell me that something creepy or cringy had happened to them, and I'll ask them what the male looked like, and every time, or almost every time, they would describe him as just unattractive, either by description or by word. Like they'd say, ew, he was ugly or fat or gross looking or he had bad teeth, right? Whatever. Or they're by their reaction, which is just shudder and say something like "ill," yeah, just in their description of the sky. So then I would ask them, what if it was, by this point I would know them well enough to know who their celebrity crush are, who their hall pass crushes are. And I'd ask them, okay, what if it was your celebrity crush? Would it still be creepy? Would you still think it was if your favorite celebrity had done it? Most of them said no without hesitation, like, oh, no, no, not at all. Um, More than a few would kind of like stop and think and like, no, well, probably not. Only three out of the 89 that I've asked, or at least out of the 89 that I started keeping track of when I was asking this. So yeah, out of 89 females, only three flat out said yes, it would still be creepy if he was attractive. So it, at least in my sample, because it's not a scientific method. I didn't take hard data, and I didn't have like a broad spectrum of females. This is just specifically derby skaters, which is kind of a decent sampling of the general public. But again, this isn't, I'm not a scientist and I'm not a lawyer, so I can't speak with any authority on these things. I'm just telling you guys or relating what I've seen in roller derby with a lot of females, both in and out of roller derby. Um, so yeah, so just kind of take it with a grain of salt, basically, right? Now, don't get me wrong, males do this a lot as well. Although of course they don't rationalize creepy behavior, they excuse and rationalize crazy. The best example I can give, and hopefully I can, like, when I post this, I'll have a little diagram, but is the Barney Stinson crazy to attractive, crazy to hotness matrix table, whatever. And if you never saw How I Met Your Mother, um, yeah, if you haven't seen it, basically there's just this chart that forever, however hot a female is, that's how crazy she can be. So, the scale is basically like a little 45-degree angle, just goes up. So if you're a 10, you can be 10 crazy. If you're a 7, you cannot be 9 crazy. That's just unacceptable, at least for males. Um, Now, she could be that crazy, but she's not going to have a boyfriend for long, or she might just have a string of fuck buddies. Who knows? But that's kind of the point I was trying to get. Like, on the flip side of things, males kind of deal with it as well. Although it's not creepy, it's just crazy behavior. So again, so what's the point of all of this? Now, while usually, now I'm going to try to word this or phrase this carefully because I don't want you to like flame me. And do people say flaming anymore? Anyways, so just hear me all out because I'm going to say probably some controversial shit, but I'll get to the point at the end. So just kind of just follow with me for a second, okay? Give me like 5 minutes. So, at least from what I see in the media, females usually have it made in the eyes of the law. Now, it might not seem so on the surface with all the crap females have to deal with, as in legit. If I would not want to be a female or trade places with a female or a Freaky Friday or anything for any amount of time for all the gold in the world. However, females usually do get away with a lot more than males do legally. So, it's not always the case, but you probably have seen, excuse me. You probably have seen where a female murders her family. Forgot her name, Anthony, where she basically drove her car into a lake, drowned her kids, and then she got out. So, in cases like that, a female could go to trial, go to prison, be done with parole before a male is even halfway through with his sentence. Like, he's not even anywhere close to being up for parole. Even if parole is an option. Okay. Another situation you might have seen in the news is where a female teacher can sexually assault or rape multiple male students and likely get a max of months of probation or months of prison. Sometimes it's even not commuted, stayed, where they get the conviction but they don't serve the time. And I knew the term like last night, and now I'm just blanking on it. But yeah, so female teachers can rape, or not rape, but they do rape their students, it's statutory rape. And that's another thing, is that in the media, it'll be portrayed as teacher has sexual relationship with her student. Keep that in mind. Sexual relationship with her student. Granted, of course, minors cannot legally consent, but even if they're willing participants, it's worse for a male in legal matters, as far as if you're flipping the script or changing the roles, because we're not just comparing apples to apples. It's more like apples to get out of jail free cards. So if a male teacher, the headline would be teacher rapes his student. Like that's just flat out. Or statutory rapes or whatever. But the media is tougher on males, usually, not always, but the media and the law is usually tougher on males than on females when it comes to these kind of situations. And also, the worst thing in the matter for me personally is the false accusations. False accusations to males. I get that rape is just heinous, right? That's just like the worst thing. I just want to take a second, in case my language wasn't clear and I was going back and forth and whatnot. What I want to get across is that in some cases, the eyes of justice isn't blind, and kind of shines a kind light on the fairer sex. In some cases, not all the time. Okay. Now, in terms of false accusations, I have a friend from high school. Actually, hang on. Let me blow my nose because I keep feeling it draining and I don't feel anything. So 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. So as far as false accusations go, I had a friend in high school, or I was acquainted with him when I was in high school. He was a freshman, I was a senior, but we both played football. And we were friends after I graduated and while he was still in high school. His senior year, he got accused of molesting his neighbor's daughter. Now, on the surface, you might think, oh, he needs to die, he needs to go to jail. But just listen to the whole story. So that was late 90s, mid 90s that this happened. Because he was a minor, he was a senior, but he was young for his age. He was a minor, so he got probation. And he didn't take it seriously, and he ended up going to prison because he violated his probation. Essentially, he turned 21 and went drinking, and who doesn't want to go drinking when they turn 21? And that was part of his probation. So violating that, go straight to jail, right? What had actually happened is that the neighbor, the wife, had propositioned my friend. He was in football, he was attractive, he was fit. And he turned her down because the neighbor was kind of like a father to him. He grew up with his grandparents, his parents, anyways, he was with his grandparents. The neighbor was like a father figure to him, and he did not want to disrespect him in that way. He turned her down. I don't know if he was polite about it or if he was a dick, but that's what I got. And you might say, oh no, you're just telling his side of the story. Just hear me out till I'm done, okay? So he turned her down, and a few weeks later, that's when the whole thing just kind of gets the ball rolling, and the daughter accuses him of molesting her. Now, there's no cameras back then. There's no cell phones. Well, there's cell phones, but no camera phones. Or if you did have a camera phone, you're talking about like thousands of dollars for a camera phone that can take a picture that's super grainy, right? Like if you super zoomed in a phone now and you try to take a picture of an area. Anyways, yeah, so there was no way for him to prove that he didn't do anything. And I don't recall the details of what that happened, but it was enough for him to get put on probation, the whole nine. Now, last I heard, he was in prison for this. But I do know that the daughter is now legal. It's been over 20 years. She's been an adult. She came forward and basically said, hey, my mother made me accuse him of that. I didn't know what I was accusing him of. She was 7 or 8 at the time, but it was kind of part of her life because it was in the news, all this other stuff. So she realized that, hey, her mom made her do this for whatever reason. Um, and so it tracks with my friend telling me that the mother propositioned him. He said no, and that was her retaliation for it. So my friend has a record and had to register as a sex offender, even though the daughter was trying to like do the right thing and set the record straight. But, you know, DA and all that kind of stuff don't want to tarnish their conviction record, I guess. I don't know. But it's a whole thing, and he's been trying to fight this part for the past 7 years. Wait, 7, 8 years. He's been fighting this to try to clear his name, right? So again, if it's happened to one person, it's probably happened to more. Now, another thing on a similar note is fathers trying to see their kids, but being withheld, especially in Texas. Texas has that's a different episode, but yeah, there's a lot of things that affect males with sexual harassment, sexual accusations, and all these other things. So I get that this is kind of a slippery slope because if you try to protect one sex, it'll put the other at a disadvantage. Right now, the males are at a disadvantage, and I'm not saying that males should have the upper hand again or whatever. That's not where I'm going with this. It's just that there should be some or a better check and balance to before someone gets charged with rape. And I mean, again, that's going to make it sound bad or worse than it is, and I don't think I can articulate what I'm trying to get with it. But the point is that males can and do get falsely accused for whatever reason, and it's not easy for the guys to clear their name. Okay. Now, to be clear, per Webster's dictionary, rape is the unlawful act of sexual activity, usually sexual intercourse carried out forcibly under threat, injury against another person's will, or with the person who's beneath a certain age or incapable of valid consent because of mental illness, deficiency, intoxication, unconsciousness, or through deception. Now, legally, per justice.gov, rape is defined as the penetration, no matter how slight, of the vagina or anus or any body part or object, or oral penetration by a sex organ of another person without the consent of the victim. The key word here is consent, and you might hear me harp on it time and time again, but consent is always a big thing, especially in the kink community. And this means that even if you're already having sex, one person can say stop, no, or don't at any time, before or during. That means even if the guy's inside, either of you have the option to say stop, no, or don't before or during. If those aren't said, you can't call it rape. Now, again, for this situation, I'm talking about a conscious, mentally capable person. Okay? If you're awake, sober, if you don't say stop, no, or don't, it's not rape. You can't come back later and say, you can say you didn't want it, you didn't like it, but it can't be called rape legally if you did not vocalize it. And you don't even have to vocalize. You can even try to fight the person off. Though I think if you're trying to fight the other person off, you would say stop, no, or don't, or get away, or something to the effect that makes it clear that you don't consent. Okay. I would say 99.999% of all humans are not mind readers. There's a likelihood that all of your past sexual partners, past, present, and future partners, are not mind readers. So if you don't say it, legally you're consenting. Now, I'm not a lawyer, not a scientist. Just one more time, I'm not a lawyer, but state laws, city ordinances may vary in terms as to what constitutes rape, but I'm pretty sure that consent is going to be at the heart of it. And a female doesn't have to report a rape to ruin a male's life. If you go back or remember just me stating, hey, you did this to me, you should you turn yourself in now or later, that skater that grabbed me at a bar, you can ruin someone's life just by saying it, hinting at it online. And, excuse me. So just hinting at possibly being raped or hinting at sexual harassment usually ruins a male's life. Usually that's the male that's being accused because the new, like the new national pastime is social media vilification, right? And I don't think we can fix it by making stricter laws against people, by making false accusations. As it stands, a false police report is just a Class B misdemeanor. At least that's a classification in Texas, which, if I can recall correctly, the max sentence is a year in jail. Ask me how I know. But if making false reports becomes as serious of a crime as rape itself, then females might not come forward when it is actually rape, or a female might end up imprisoned on top of having been violated because some loophole or falling through the cracks, or the guy just happens to have an expensive lawyer. So I'm not saying we should punish the female either, whether the accusation is real or not, whether, all these other factors. I'm just saying that bad things can happen to people that don't deserve it. But that happens everywhere, right? So what's the point of all this? So Weinstein got caught holding the bag that essentially kicked off MeToo. Yes, I agree. He should be imprisoned. I don't think he should have been charged with rape or sexual assault. Now, hang on, before you click off or whatever, just hear me out, okay? Just trust me. Or don't trust me. Just kind of listen to my logic, whether it's good or not. You can decide, but don't just get ready to vilify me, okay? So again, I agree that Weinstein should be imprisoned for some type of charge. I just don't think it should be for rape or sexual assault. Reason being is that I believe that the assault should be something along the lines of soliciting a prostitute or something regarding prostitution. And I get it. You're probably going to get mad and you're crazy. And you're going to click off, but please just follow along for a little while, okay? While he did abuse his power, it was a quid pro quo. It was an open secret in Hollywood. I don't know if you've ever seen any montages or compilations or whatever, but there's a lot of there's quite a few YouTube videos that show actresses and actors pre-MeToo. The late night host will ask something of the actor or actress about Weinstein, and they'll kind of roll their eyes and like, well, I wouldn't want to go to that casting couch, or something along the lines, or making light of knowing that he was abusing his power, but not calling him out for it, right? Now, so it was an open secret. Hollywood knew basically that if you want to role in one of his independent films and you're not an A-list actor, you're going to be doing him a favor for that role. Common knowledge amongst actors and actresses. But everyone else sees it as abuse of power, which I agree with as well. But if that was just the end of the dynamic, like it was just, okay, you're going to be in this movie and you're just going to be some random supporting actress that has like 3 lines. Usually they ended up being kind of the star of the show, right? And quite a those females, literally, and this hate me or not for it, but they hoard themselves out to get a nice career and millions of dollars out of the deal. Although at the time it probably would have been hundreds of thousands of dollars for being the lead role per like the union contracts for SAG. So there's a lot of things there, but I would say that they hoard themselves out for what they got. They knew what they were going into beforehand. Now, don't get me wrong. Still, just stay with me. Just fucking stay with me for a while, okay? I'm not condoning his actions. And I'm not saying these females lied. And they didn't deserve it. What I am saying is they could have gotten up and left. They could have said no. Or they could have just not gone to the audition. Because it was an open secret. They knew what they were getting into. And they were non-verbally agreeing to be a whore. That's just my opinion on that. But I'm not saying Weinstein should not be imprisoned or charged or anything. I'm just saying most of them usually went in with wide open. Most of them went in with their eyes wide open. Granted, the first 10, 5, 20, 100, I don't know. But before it became an open secret, those first few women, those definitely got shit on. They didn't know what they were going into. And I get that being around someone that has a position of power, it's kind of damn if you do and you don't. Because if you don't, then you'll probably get blacklisted. I don't know how that works or how to prove that either, but just opinion. Now, if you're still with me and hoping that I redeem myself, or maybe you can kind of see my perspective on some of the things I say, or you maybe like the way my mind works, or can kind of meet me in the middle, like, okay, you said this, but I can agree with your point of view because you gave an example or whatever. I just want to thank you for sticking with me with this far with what I've said. If you're on the live stream, you can comment, which no one's commenting, but apparently I got 3 viewers. Anyways, it'll disappear when I re-upload this. It'll be all edited out, all the ums and uhs and repetitions. If you're here on the podcast, you can message me on social media. My Instagram DMs are always open. If you're on Spotify, supposedly you can send me a voice message. There should be a link in my show notes description that'll let you send me a voice message. Supposedly that only works in Spotify. If you're watching here on YouTube, you can always comment here, and there's plenty of ways to comment, give me shit, or on any or all of what I've said. I'm looking at the chat, so there's no questions there. So regardless of what you think of me, I want to thank you for making it this far into the episode. If I never see you again, I want to thank you for seeing this one and any other ones that you've listened to. Hopefully you'll stick around and see how my crazy mind works on future episodes. The next one, I already forgot what the hell it's about, but I can pull it up. This one's a good one. This one is, the next episode is going to be about my hypothesis about 100 and the sexual prowess and how to be able to tell whether a male is going to be any good in bed, or at least be able to get you off. So one more time, thank you for making it this far into the live stream, into the episode. Thanks again for being here. I really do appreciate it, and love you guys all. Till next time, besos sexies. I'm gonna stop this.